Hi everyone. So welcome to our February DAP chat, not March. Almost March though. So I wanted just to talk about who is Draft Animal Power Network before we jump into our uh, presentation today. Just to let everybody know that we're an organization that want to sustain resources or make links for people who want to know more about the draft animal power world and working with animals in general. And this is a DAP chat, so it's a roundtable discussion with a professional that is going to teach us a bit more about what they do and what is their implication in the draft animal world, or in this case, the rescue of large animal world. So we're really, really happy to have Vicki Schmidt with us today, and I'll let you take it away and present yourself.
Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you to Daphne and it was a Jen or Lisa or one of the other late Erica that helped out with all of this too. I really appreciate it. Happy to be here, and with luck, I might be doing a class or two, a day and a half class at Loudon in New Hampshire in October. We'll see how that works out. And for those who don't know me, I've had a farm here in Western Maine for 26 years now, and we had Clydesdales and Shires. We bred Shires. We had two Shire stallions, 7 brood mares, and 5 to 7 foals a year. Had 28 Clydes and Shires here at one time. It's a 100-acre farm, beautiful, beautiful piece of land. And as I get older, I've gotten out of the breeding, and I've been a state fire instructor for another, well, 24 years, and kind of blended the two passions. And 20 years ago, when a horse went down, lots of times it was the end of their life. And because there just weren't rescue teams and ice water and cold water teams and all that stuff to rescue them, you'd try to do the best you could. But there was a class in Mass that I took, and it's kind of blossomed from there. And now we seem to have a super great network all around the US of tech rescue teams that also have the equine component with them. And that's pretty much what I do. I don't teach a ton of technical rescue, but I bring the equine component to the training classes for the ice water, cold water, and all those teams. And also for owners too. I love to teach to owners. I have owners class. I have first responder classes. And I at times have taught both groups together, which is very fun, very challenging, but also it makes for a super long day because you've got two totally different types of mindsets that you're teaching to. But teaching to the combined groups is actually my favorite. So, but anyhow, tonight I want to give you a brief intro into what large animal emergency rescue is. Try to get you thinking about things that you can be doing with your own horse, things you can be doing at your farm and as you're trailering. The big goal is to reduce your risk and hopefully reduce the damage, the danger, if anything does happen. Just knowing who to call, will your vet come out? Simple little things. It'll be amazing when you take, if you do get to take a full 6 or 8 hour, 10 hour class. You just keep learning. There's so much, but I'm just going to do very, very brief tonight. If you do have questions, do not hesitate to put them in the chat, and I'll get to them as I can. If I can't get to them tonight, I will definitely get back to you as I can. And it might jump around a little bit on the slides depending on questions as well. So I'm going to introduce a couple topics, and then some of the slides will have a lot more discussion with them. Okay, so, and I'm Vicki Schmidt, Troika Farms in Hebron. I'm Western Maine Firefighters. I'm a state fire instructor at Maine Fire Services. I run with my local department, Buckfield Fire Department. This program has been approved by the state of Maine Animal Rescue Team. For those who are in Maine, if you did take my class, you get a Maine certificate, which, you know, local store, but it looks good in your file folder. And if you, my phone number and email is there, and don't ever hesitate to reach out. So, okay, let me see. What do we got here? All right. No, no, okay, there we go. Okay. The one of the biggest components about large animal rescue or any type of rescue is an animal incident is a human incident. There's always, always people involved. If we get a 911 call, for a dog through the ice, a horse through the ice, a horse stuck in mud, and the fire chief or somebody says, well, we don't do animals, we don't have the equipment, we can't do this, blah, blah, blah. The next 911 call is for the Good Samaritan who went out there to try to help the animal. And that's pretty much how some of the large animal incident programs got started, is because we did see this need. And Katrina, um, for those who are familiar with Katrina, the hurricane that hit New Orleans, that really catapulted large animal emergency rescue into the limelight, because there was 500 horses whose owners were never. There were bodies of 500 horses who were never relocated with their owners. Every horse that did have a microchip either got reunited with his owner, or at least a body was returned. So there's tons and tons and tons of lessons learned from Katrina. But and we go into that a little bit further in my full class. But, first off, how many here have horses? Pretty much everybody. For those who have their pictures, just raise your hand if you have horses. Yeah. So you're pretty familiar with the fact that horses, that they don't think, they don't reason, they don't rationalize when something bothers them. They just react. They're very reactive. And I would argue that a little bit in my training sessions. I do think horses rationalize. I do think they reason. But when it is a busy or a noisy, or something spooks them, or something brings them out of their just natural character, all they're going to do is react. And that is the big thing. And you can see from some of these pictures, we call them unsolved mysteries. How did these horses even get in some of these situations? And I'm sure that some of you could tell me some pretty good stories. And the first time anybody here put a new set of shoes on a horse and then asked to walk on tar, well, and they've never heard their feet clip clop, and then they try to get away from that clip clop. That's pretty. There's really some just things that you would think, okay, this isn't going to bother them. It's the sound of sleigh bells. The first time some horses hear a sleigh bell, just puts them into orbit. So and I want to spend a little bit of time on reading your horse, learning how surroundings and sensations impact your horse. And I actually have a whole class just on this. It's about an hour and a half long, if you ever wanted to do that some night too. But one of the big things, if you haven't ever read the book, The Nature of Horses is probably one of the best books. And as the title says, exploring equine evolution, intelligence, and behavior. It just really goes into a lot of herd dynamics, how horses think of us as their herd mates. And do we, as humans, think of them as our herd mates? Do we approach them and work with them as herd mates and teammates? And if you've seen a team of horses work, they're so totally in unison. And there is just minutely a leader and a follower at all times, but it's so minute that we can't see it. But when we're driving horses, we are actually the horse's leader. And if we aren't the leader, if we don't take the leadership, the horse will take the leadership role. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's good. But it's having that teamwork and having that that ability to work together as a horse and as a horse's teammate while we're the humans. And will we put our energy into their wavelength? People kind of, they don't understand when I say you've got to really, you're like a radio dial when you're working with your horses and trying to sense your horse, and your hope that your horses are you're tuning in together like your radio dial, and they can't comprehend that. And they're like, well, you have cell service and all these airwaves and all your communication comes across this virtual airspace. That's the same airspace that we connect with our horses. And for those of us who have that connection with our horses, and those of us who have worked with it and have learned it, that's the basics of learning to read your horse. So you've got your sight, vision, knowing how the eyes are set. Different horses have different widths on their eye. Their eyes are set. Some are set further back on their heads. Some are closer on their heads. They've got high range, low range vision. They've got two ranges of vision. They've got binocular vision binocular vision to the front and a little bit to the back. And then they've got monocular vision to the side. So when a horse has monocular vision, what does that mean? It's only seeing with one eye, right? so it can't see depth. It doesn't have depth perception to the sides. That's why horses tend to be much more skittish of something that comes in from the side, because they can't tell exactly how far it is away. And this is when you learn to read your horse, you're watching their eyes, watching their senses all the time. Same thing with audio and sounds. What impacts your horse? What do what do they hear? The little cluck. I speak very gently to my horses. I barely, some of my best trained horses, all I had to do was think what I wanted them to do and they would do it. I hardly had to speak to them at all. And I'll go to shows now and I'll see these people yelling and screaming and whoa, 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 and being all this dramified with their horses. And their horses are just like, oh, you please tell them to shut up. It's just they don't need that sound. The other thing is horses that are quote unquote not bothered by fireworks or not bothered by gunshots. Why do you think that is? They have actually become deaf to those tones. Okay, they're not really truly um they're not hearing those tones of the gunshots, and over time they and they are partially deaf. As horses get older, they get deaf, their eyes and sight and everything also start to function small. The sense of touch, probably nobody needs to have much explanation of that. If you work with horses, you see that little fly that lands on them, and their sympathetic motion will make that fly away. That's how sensitive their skin is. They do feel us. We can use that, whether it's the lines touching them on their hips just a little bit, resting on their hips versus asking them to move forward. We're all familiar with that sense of touch, and rubbing them right here. That right there, when you rub a horse, you read all these studies. And I have a horse, he doesn't like having his head touched, but he doesn't mind me rubbing on his forehead. One reason horses that tends to be smooth, soothing and calming is that is where their head rests on their mother's udder when they are nursing. And they'll go like that and rub that, and that releases endorphins for the mare. It also releases milk. And that's a very soothing and comforting feeling for the horse that lasts throughout their lifetime. So if we do have a horse trapped on ice or something like that, I will, I teach people, I said, just rub, if you can't do anything else, just rub that horse's forehead very gently, and that will lots of times help calm the horse. Same thing with smells and their sensories for their nostrils. The smell of cigarettes tends to turn some horses off, but if the horses are used to it, it's not so bad. The smell of smoke from fires, diesel fumes, all those things, those horses will have different reactions. And knowing how they will react to these and being able to watch them and tune into them is vitally important, I think, especially in an emergency situation. Body language, you guys all know, the calmer you can be, the calmer your horse will be. They can sense what is it? They can sense our heart. They can sense the vibrations of our heartbeat 4 feet away. And I know they sense our vibes. So, but any questions with any of this or comments, feel free to jump in there. But where is their binocular vision? What extent? Binocular vision would be, I have it in my full slide, so I don't have it in the slide. It's from their eyes forward into, it almost forms a triangle, will be their binocular vision, a triangle out. And you'll see the horses, they have short range and long range vision, and they'll have their head up if they see one of their friends or you or whoever coming, or a fox trotting across a field. And if they walk toward them, usually about 4 to 6 feet away is when they start to put their head down, because that's when they are starting to bring you into their short range vision. And different horses have different, sometimes it's 8 feet depending on the horse, but that where their long and short range vision starts to come into play. And it depends on how the width of their eyes, their eye set. And lots of people who don't know horses, and especially first responders when I'm teaching this class, when the horse has got his head up, and when they put the head down, what is somebody who's intimidated by horses going to think? They're under attack, or this horse is acting aggressively, when they're really not. They're just putting you in that range of vision. And lots of times they'll reach out, and sometimes they might even take their nose and do a little scratch on their arm, which is a sign of friendship. I want to be your friend. If I have a horse do that, if I just don't want them doing it, I step away. I don't ever slap their nose or anything like that, because they're saying, hey, can I be your friend? And if we slap their nose, what if we just said, I don't want to
No.
be your friend? And they remember that stuff. So anyhow, but yeah, so did they answer your question on the binocular vision?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me see. Um, is your farm okay? A safe and comfortable environment, emotionally and physically for your horse. We are almost daily. I see on the internet, someone's horse is out, someone's cows are out, those horses are programmed to walk 27 miles a day in nature in search of food and water. And what do? We put a round bale, maybe not even such a good one. You know, they might have some snow, they might have a little bit of water, but they are bored. The snow is 2.5 feet deep here. I don't know how deep it is where you guys are, but that's grounding out our fences unless you have a really good, my fences are especially right near my gates where most of my horses are, and my horses have been zapped enough. I mean, I don't even get moose coming through my fences. That's how good my fences are, but I make sure that they are grounded even with snow on them. There's a type of fence you can buy that has the grounding in the wire, so you don't have to worry about ground rods quite so much. I have that as one of my strands. Um, but they quickly learn when that electricity is grounded out that they can get through that fence. And you've got to have, I mean, I'm not saying it can happen to anybody, but the more your environment and your farm is comfortable and um, your horse is getting all the stimulus at once, it can move around. I take my flakes of hay. I don't feed round bales. Take my flakes of hay. I walk them out through the pastures so that they have to forage just like in the wild for their hay. So that they don't get bored. They've got salt in one. Their salt is one paddock that's about 1,200 feet away from. They've got to walk there if they want to get their salt. They get their exercise. They got stuff to do all day. They don't stay too bored. Plus, I go out and bug them all the time too. So food, forage, and a friend. As long as they've got that, your horse is 90. You've got 90% of it covered. Are your fencing okay? Are your barns? Are your paddock? Your pastures? One thing, as we are getting more severe storms in Maine, I'm starting to highly recommend that people have what I call it a post-storm staging area, just a smaller paddock where you can stage your horses. There was just 3 of the packing mules that did a ton of the rescue work down in North Carolina got out the other night because a tree came down on the back side of their pasture. The people hadn't got it fixed. The mules found the way out, and all 3 of them got killed and got hit by cars. And highly trained pack mules. And just because a tree went down, and so kind of get those little staging areas and those paddocks when we're getting these stormy weathers and these stormy patterns. Keep your animals close to your barn. Have a way to keep them and scout your pastures before you let them out. Make sure your fences aren't down and don't think. I have another friend in Wyoming who bought a horse and they knew the back gate to the big open pastures were open. They didn't know another gate was open. They had that horse 12 hours and it got out on the highway and got hit by an 18-wheeler. So horses will, especially horses new to your property, they want to roam. That's in their nature. They're curious. I have a donkey every day. He's always looking. Okay, did she forget to shut a gate? Is there one I can, something down? He's a little mischievous, and the other two will follow him if anything. I had a guy deliver hay once and didn't get a gate shut in time, and Rocky found it, and everybody was out having a good time tearing up the lawn. But I didn't. I don't mind it actually. All right. That was a little bit more on that slide. Okay, the next one, don't take it personally if this is any of you. Hopefully these pictures are none of you. This is one reason why when I'm teaching this class to first responders, they think a lot of horse owners are idiots. And I try to convince them, no, there's a lot of really great super horse people out there. But when they see stuff like this on the roads, this is like, why are we even going to try to save this horse when they don't seem to care about it? These are actual pictures. These are real pictures. These aren't AI. Well, 2 of these pictures I've had almost 20 years. So, and I've been out west and seen stuff, not a lot unlike this. So really think about what you're doing. If this was the best you could do to haul your horse around, I'd probably be considering maybe not owning a horse. Horses will do so, they trust us so much and they will do so much for us, to the point of, letting us kill them, even if it is an accident. So that's my take on that. All right, we're gonna spend a little bit of time on this one. Is your horse rescue ready? This is the rescue ready owner. These are the two things when I do the full day class with owners. These are the big things. I really program this into you. Pre-programmed ICEs, and those are in case of emergency. The big thing is, these are for, in my phone, I have ICE, well, when I used to show, I don't so much now, because I'm not on the road with my horses as much. ICE veterinarian, in case of emergency, this is a veterinarian. In case of emergency, this is a number for my farm help. In case of emergency, this is my backup trailer and travel, and these are people, because there's a very good chance you may be life flighted. You know, if you're in an accident with your truck and trailer and your horses, you may be like on a helicopter to a trauma center. We are not going to, we're not going to know what to do for you. In the state of Maine, the fire chief has control of the incident. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. But the best you can do to give us information will be helpful. There is a form that I won't, I don't think I'll be able to get a time. Maybe after we finish the talk, I can look it up. It's an online form. It's 8x11, and it says, you know, if I'm unable to answer for my horses, this is my veterinarian. You know, it's sort of like a directive of everything. And you fill that out, keep one on your dashboard, keep one in your trailer, keep one in your farm. So if there's a barn fire while you're gone, hopefully we'll have an idea. Leave a copy with your neighbor. If you're on good terms with your fire department, you can always leave that with your fire chief. Emergency info with directions posted near your phone, entrances. Arrange for emergency care of your horses. In the event of emergency, when you're not around, who do you want us to call? Who can take care of them? What is your directive? Do you want all out care? Do you have insurance? And do you want them to go down to Tufts University if it's something that the local vets can't handle? Do you want to authorize euthanasia? And do you have someone that can carry that out for you? So, big thing is stay calm in the event of an emergency. I've only had one rescue that I've been on when the lady was just ballistic. We did have to have the police take her off the scene. She was actually making things worse for her horse, and even making things worse for us as rescuers. And it was not a good scene. I knew the horse wasn't going to make it. I'm pretty sure she knew the horse wasn't going to make it, and it was traumatic for everybody. But it was and I know that's really really super hard. I can't imagine if it had been my horse. But you've really got to trade, because the calmer you can stay in the event of emergency, the calmer your animals will stay. Know your horse's ambient vital signs. Learn to take their pulse and understand their breathing rates. What's their resting respirations? Know what their nostrils are when they're resting. Be able to say yes, their breathing is labored. This is not how they normally breathe. Those types of things. Respect the authority and responsibility of the local responders. We're going to go over that in a little bit. I have one more slides. Knows your knots and safety protocol. That's there again, that's a whole class, but there's a lot that going through clubs like this. Hopefully you've learned a little bit how to tie your horse properly. You know, simple things. Don't tie your horse to a trailer if that trailer is not attached to a truck. Make sure you know use your the right kind of knots. Trains our horse to be rescue ready. And we have a whole video on that too, but we're not going to show that tonight. All right, and now let me see. Leads equally from both sides. Okay, why do we lead our horse from the left, everybody?
No.
Anybody know? Because we mount from the left, correct? Why do we mount from the left? Somebody's gonna know. What, you know, Daphne, why?
Is it from the medieval age when we
Yeah,
had
because we
like
used to carry swords, and we
yeah.
carried swords on the left, and we'd have to have our right hand, because you weren't allowed to be left-handed back then, so that you could pull, and you couldn't mount you had your sword on in the little sword keeper thing. I forget the name right now. And so that's how we do that. Okay, so how many of you carry swords? None. So why are we still doing that? It's because we always have. Okay, first responders are not going to know that your horse is expecting to be led from the left. Okay. The other thing is, anybody got, especially for driving horses, you got one of those horses doesn't want to turn to the right, seems to turn to the left really well because this shoulder's nice and stretched because we always turn to the left, and this one's kind of crunched down because we don't stretch it. And then you ask them to turn to the right, and they're saying, "No, I can't move that shoulder. I can't move that shoulder. Let me, And if and with my babies, I teach them. Like if I don't have foals anymore, but I did. We always let them from both sides, and we turn them equally to the left and right, so both their shoulders. And sometimes if they lean on one shoulder in the womb, they're going to be more right-sided or left-sided anyways. But really work at training your horses to lead well from both sides. And I will tell you, if you have always led your horses from the left, it is not easy to learn to lead them from the right because your muscle memory is also working to lead them from the left too. And it's very interesting, but it's really good. Okay, stands quietly while tied and blindfolded. These people, I've had horses come in here just to teach them to learn to stand tied because they don't know it. They don't, and I just do the reward method. The only time they get their grain and second crop hay is when they're tied, and they learn to, oh, let's get tied. There's a whole lot of other things sometimes I have to do. Blindfolding is the jury's a tad some vets will say don't bother to teach them to blindfold. I believe in teaching them to blindfold. It's a long term a good in case situation because of the hostile gases in case of a fire or even in case of a accident. We have all sorts of chemicals and things now that especially from EV vehicles. The other ones are the those little gas propelled things when your hatchback on your car flips up and stays up and it goes and then it comes down really slow. There's a little gas thing in there that can explode. There's all sorts of things. So I just think from a safety standpoint, if you can train your horse to be blindfolded, it can come in very handy in certain emergency situations, just because of the hostile gases and things that we have nowadays. Allow straps to be draped over, under, around, between their legs. If you have a driving horse, you're 90% of the way there. We do a lot of that, working with that in the classes. Allows wraps freely on their legs. We'll spend a lot of time wrapping horses' legs. Doing different things with straps. Accepts the sound of duct tape. That's one thing that can put a horse into orbit for some reason. Duct tape and Velcro are those two things. And even horses that have no problem with the sound of Velcro or duct tape, normally, if they are under anesthesia, if they've had to have some Dorm gel, or you have a vet on scene and they've been given some ACE or drug to just calm them down if there's lights and sirens and all sorts of chaos going on. Under the influence of tranquilizer, those sounds may startle. So we don't ever, as responders, we're taught we just don't always assume that nothing's going to bother the horse. This is not afraid of the light of a flashlight. Okay, mama horse doesn't tell baby horse this flashlight isn't going to scare you. Does a flashlight have a smell? No. Is it making a growling noise? Is it making any type of noise? No. I had a brood mare. She passed away a few years ago. She would literally try to kill the light of a flashlight. If I go out there at night, she would come over. She was an alpha mare. She would literally strike at that light. You know how the cats, you can take that little thing and the cat will play with a little light on the wall and jump around and play? No, she was out for blood though, because she swore to God that was something that was going to hurt her babies, okay, or hurt her herd mates. So I had to actually put her in a stall, and I would put her grain bucket down, take a flashlight, and I would just very gently move the flashlight around her grain bucket to just teach her that this flashlight was not going to kill her and hurt her. Took a while, but if your horse is loose and we're trying to find it, or we're trying to help you find it, and your horse is afraid of a flashlight and we're out there, we're not going to be able to catch it. It seems like a simple little thing, but it doesn't have a smell. It's not making a noise. So there's no reason for a horse to assume that it's not going to hurt them. And it's trusting of humans and strangers. The most one about my pet peeve is one of the most irritating thing anyone will say, well, I'm the only one that can do anything with my horse. Well, in emergency situation, then you want us to write him off because if you're the only one who can do anything and we just life flighted you off to the trauma center and we can't do anything with your horse, okay, that's not a good thing. Really, let your horse learn to be trusting of other people and strangers. The other thing is that if you die and go to heaven tonight, um, you know, you want your horse to be well cared for and loved. And so that's why I have lots of people that love my horses, and they would probably say, okay, see you, Vicky, have a good time. We'll catch you on the other side. But no, really, think about that. I know, there's a lot of people, it makes their ego feel good to think, oh, I'm the only one that can do anything with it, but it's not a long-term solution for your horse. Yep. Cindy Nickerson, yes, right answer. So, all right. Moving on here. What do we got next? Okay, incident command system in large animal rescue. And I don't know, I'm sorry, Daphne, I don't know what Canada has for an incident command system for your first responders. We have what's called ISO NIMS, National Incident Management System. What's we did? I don't, day to day, I don't have any idea what's going on in this country anymore. So we may still have it, we may not have it, I don't know. Your look at as good as mine. It's like, okay. As of my last incident, we still had the incident command system. And you can go online, take these classes, and they're really great because it really teaches the public how what our rescue protocol is, how we're going to operate in an emergency situation. And the big thing is it keeps us safe. It reduces risk to whoever it is we're trying to rescue. And it also helps, it theoretically provides our workers' comp and if we are following the incident command system, we are less liable for anything if somebody gets injured because of something we're doing. The incident commander in the state of Maine is always in command. And even if he or she relinquishes command to, it's been 12 hours or, or 8 hours or whatever, they've got to go get lunch. If they relinquish command to somebody else, they are still ultimately in command, ultimately responsible for the outcome of the incident. So an incident commander will not theoretically release command to somebody who is not equal or more knowledgeable than he or she is in a command situation. And then there's usually a public information officer, logistics. Logistics are the people that they're going to be calling the wrecker. They may be calling in extra tankers or, water task force, depending on if it's a fire, you know, extended event. They might be saying, hey, can we get some food for these responders? What's going on? They may be trying to get a hold of a large animal vet, multiple large animal vets. If it's a MCI, animal MCI, some of these trailers, you got 6 or 7 horses in them. And if they've overturned, and then operations, they're the ones, delegating information, working to keep the communication going up and down. Land animal vet and owner assistant. If the owners, we love having owners on scene. They are the most comforting to the animal if they themselves, as we noted before, are acting quiet and responsible and comforting to the horse. We love to have that owner assistant, and then responder safety and public safety. We have risk assessment with staffing, police, law officers, owners, and veterinarians. This is a video on YouTube of these 2 Clydesdales. Let's talk about this a little later, but where we got the picture right here. This was, I think it's in Massachusetts someplace, and these horses had lived on this farm for 12 years, had lived with this pond for 12 years, and in 12 years had never ventured out onto the ice. And I just love this when people say, because I say, if I go to evaluate someone's farm and say, well, this, if you want to reduce risk, I put up a fence here. Oh, those horses won't go out on the ice, won't go. Well, these horses never went out on the ice till the day they did. And there's some great video and some other pictures, and you can see where they went out. The reason these horses survived was that somebody saw them go through the ice, and emergency services were on scene within 10 minutes, and those horses did not get very hypothermic. As you can see, they've got their head up. I think they were in about 6 feet of water. And they could still walk when they finally did get them out of the ice. They actually swam cut a tunnel in the ice, and it was a very dramatic, extremely well trained rescue team, and there were people there that understood the animal component. So the other thing is, they were turned out. What's the rule? Never leave a halter on your horse. Okay, these two horses were turned out, had their halter on. Thank God, because that allowed the rescuers to get a rope on them and to be able to guide them through the path that they had cut through the ice. Pros and cons to all that stuff. I can't leave halters on my horses because my donkey takes them and drags the horses around. If I do that, puts the halter in his teeth and drags them around. You haven't lived till you've seen a donkey dragging a 1,800-pound draft horse by the head. But anyways, he'll undo the buckles. He's a menace, but I love him. So cool. All right. So think about your horse and what you've got. How might your horse respond in a trailer or traffic accident? I don't know how many out you're doing. I'm a driver, so I used to be on the road a lot with the carriages. Um, Even something, if you're logging, what's going to happen if something happens? Think about, will your horse, animals in general, horses especially, if they are trapped, they're going to be very calm. Okay. They usually don't start to react or start to thrash until they sense freedom. Once they sense freedom is when they start the thrashing, and sometimes they can grip and get away. So if we have a trapped horse, we always set up a containment area before we release them from the mud or get them out of the ice or whatever. We make sure that if this animal is going to be able to run when we get it out of the situation, once it starts to sense freedom and they start thrashing, are they going to start cutting their legs more? Are they going to start what's going on? And just think about horses. If you have a barn, urban face wildfires, they're going to be happening more and more. The U.S. Federal Service wildfire, they would just have 35 firefighters laid off, and I'm sure more are coming. We're not going to have the firefighting crews to come in and help, as we've had in the past. Do you have local firefighters? Do you have people in California starting to put in their old water supply systems? Maybe it's time we all start thinking about collecting water and just leaving a 500-gallon cistern out there. I don't know what the answers are on that big stuff, but can you evacuate your animals? Will they evacuate? Will they load? Will they all load in a trailer? Will they all travel together? Well, how are you going to get them? Where you got to get them if you have to evacuate? Trapped animals, mud, swift water, high tech rescue. I have a mud rescue kit. There's 4 or 5 mud rescue kits, and actually with all the mud rescue. If anyone knows mud, what's mud made of? Daphne, you're gonna know that. You knew the sword thing. Or
Clay?
Cindy, does Cindy know? Mud is water, air,
Oh,
and dirt.
water.
Okay. So if you're stuck, you've got your that force there holding, and all you've got to do is you've either got to add water or air to break that. Oh shit, what's the name? Excuse my language.
Suction.
The what?
Is it the suction?
Yeah, the suction, but there's the scientific name. I can't think of it right now. But yeah, so and that's what we carry. I tell firefighters, oh yeah, we can rescue mud. We got mud rescue kits, we got fire hose, we got water, we got air, we got our SCBA tanks, we got air. We just got to figure out how are we going to get that in there. And there's actually a kit with PVC pipes and some manifolds that you can use for the air. But there again, that's the whole big class. The biggest things that we see are man-made with the hay feeders, gates, not cattle guards, not so much up here. Out west, the cattle guards are horrible for both horses and cattle because they're very rarely maintained well. Bear, we're starting to get more bear around here. I understand a horse trying to say, I got to get the heck out of here when a bear's trying to come in my fence, and these things they do get, in one of the pictures that I showed earlier, it's just, you just wonder, how do these animals get into this stuff? But think about what you got around, how can you mitigate it? Prevent it from happening maybe, or are you going to be able to call a fire department? Are they going to say, yeah, we can come help you, or we don't have a clue, you're on your own, Mr. Horse Owner or Mrs. Horse Owner. Especially when it comes to fire, prevention's key. I think when it comes to horses through the ponds, loose horses on the road, prevention and risk reduction is what we have to be working towards. In 2007, and I just someday I might be able to update this number. I'm sure it's worse than it was in 2007. United States recorded 203 barn and other animal facility fires in which 870,984 animals died. Of the 203 fires, only 4 were arson or suspicious, meaning that 199 of those fires could have been prevented. Okay. And there were these heated buckets, heating elements, and fans. These fans do not have a coated, their motors are not sealed. So they get dust, and that dust gets heated up, and that dust will combust at a very low temperature. And you got all that HF in there that loves to start a fire. The other thing is, if you notice in the right-hand picture, right-hand corner, there's an electrical cord hanging right there on the wall. So, and hopefully they move that before they put a horse in there. So, and I see people using this every year. I'll get this picture just went around the internet a couple weeks ago, and it's different than the one I got last year, which is different than the one I got the year before. So these things happen a lot more frequently, and thank God, you know, people catch them before the barn burns down. I would never, I very rarely use the word never, but I do not use heating elements of any kind in my barn. My horses get warm water. I do have hot running water in my barn. It comes through my house into my barn. I am lucky. It was one thing I said when I want hot running water. I really don't care about anything else. I have a beautiful, beautiful insulated barn. We used to be a cattle barn, but I love my hot water, and my horses get warm water. Um, and I only on the coldest of nights does it never freezes in the barn, and only on the coldest of nights will it freeze outside. Because I put hot water in it 2 or 3 times a day. So, but you got to do what works for you. And I've been in barns where they've used these buckets all the time, and I see chickens all the time in horse barns, little baby chicks, and this other one where the New Enterprise Fire kills two Clydesdales had puppies. They had puppies with a heat lamp in the barn and lost them all. So it's you got to make your own choices and do your own risk reduction. But if you can prevent, that would be the big thing. Wildfire preparedness or any type of large animal evacuation rescue. If you are near a railroad, you want to know what chemicals you got traveling on that railroad. And if you do get a rail accident, how are you going to evacuate? If it's a rail accident on a windy day, how far are you from those railroad tracks? How long do you have to evacuate? And there again, we get a list. We don't have any railroads in our jurisdiction. In our first due jurisdiction, in our mutual aid jurisdiction, we do have railroads. But the town, if a railroad goes through your town, and at least in the United States, as of yesterday, I don't know now, but every year we get a list of chemicals that the trains carry through the towns. So we will know. And they have placards. We can read the placards. We take hazmat classes. So you can learn. And, if 90% of what travels through your rail yards is not going to bother, then you probably don't have to worry about it. But if you've got a mill, we have a paper mill 25 miles north of here, and they do get some pretty caustic chemicals in there. We've got a hockey arena not far from here. They get anhydride. I can't say that word. Anhydrous ammonia, is it, that they use to make the ice? It's another chemical that comes in on the big trucks. So just know what your region is. If you are in a wildfire prone region, which I think we're not in a wildfire regime like the West is, but we can in our and I think that in Maine, we were 7 inches of water below normal average. Snowpack, last I saw, we were about a foot down in snowpack. So we're going to enter this spring going into a moderate drought. So we could have some pretty good wildland fires in Maine and New England coming up. So, but just know, how many trailers is it going to take? How many trips will it take to get your animals off the farm? Who's going to help you do it? Can you do it one trip? Will they all ride together, peaceful and harmony? All that fun stuff. Okay. Just a little bit on haltering and tying. How are we doing for time? Okay. Am I okay
Yeah.
with time?
Yeah, you still have like
Okay,
40
cool.
minutes.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll keep gabbing then. I don't know how many slides I have left, but we can keep talking. Okay, quick release knots. There's lots of varieties of quick release knots. I've got my go-to, as you can see in the picture on the trailer there. That's my go-to quick release knot. I don't care what kind of quick release knot you use, just as long as you know it and you use it and you can do it with your eyes closed. And ideally make it one that your horse can't untie. That's a good thing too. As I noted before, don't tie a horse to anything except something that's very secure. I have seen horses, this little trailer, a draft horse could easily pull that trailer over if it wasn't attached to a truck. And I have seen draft horses tied to the sides of 18 wheelers and break the sides of the 18 wheeler off. So, pulling on it. So you've got to, even 18, you've got to know that what you're tying that horse with is going to last. I know there's that saying, well, if something doesn't break, if the rope doesn't break, the snap doesn't break, the wall doesn't break, the horse is going to break. Well, then we can get into the whole discussion on self-sacrificial horses or self-preserving horses. I think there's two kinds in the world. And if that horse is going to be that determined to break away, they're a self-sacrificing horse, and we're probably not going to be able to save them anyways. So, rope, rope halters, I don't care if you use rope halters, I don't care if you use a flat halter. There again, just make sure it's sturdy and it will hold your horse for the intended purpose. I will say, as from first responders, 90% of them will understand better how to do a flat halter, which I call a standard halter, than a rope halter. Um, I can guarantee right now, 90%, probably even 99% of the firefighters in the world, you give them a rope halter, they're not going to have a clue how to put that on a horse. And they're certainly not going to have a clue how to do that knot. But there again, we do try to teach them, but I don't use the rope halters, and people have showed it to me 20 times, and I don't use it for a year, and I don't remember how to do it because it's not my core. I'm just not used to practicing it, and hopefully my next time. And you never know. If I get a horse in here with more for training with a rope halter, I'll try to learn it. So. All right, blindfolds, generally acceptable. You need to train your horse to be blindfolded before you need it. It's this is definitely a prerequisite. I would not blindfold a horse unless it was a dire situation that had not been blindfolded before. I actually had a blind horse I used in my classes for a while, and it was really cool because she was blind. I could put blindfold on her, and people thought it was cool because I could walk around. She'd go up and down. She'd step up, step down. She'd just do everything I asked her to do. But I had worked with her, and I was also her eyes. I totally became her eyes. And I never, ever, ever, that horse trusted me, and I never screwed her up. Okay. If the horse is trusting you and you screw him up once, you're going to have a hard time getting that trust back. Um, she was an amazing mother too. She would, when she had her baby, she'd shuffle her feet till she felt her baby, and then she was just an amazing mare. But it was really cool because nobody knew she was blind until I told them. And but yeah, and so for the blindfolds, we use either a long towel and just rip it in half, and you can just put it over their forehead part and their eyes, leaves their nose open to eat really well, tuck it around on their halters. I personally like the long strips. I'm pointing at the screen. I'm assuming you can see the horse with the blue sweatshirt on. And I like to wrap it around and then stick it through the ring of the flat halter. That's the other reason why I like the flat halters. They're a little bit nicer for rescue work. If you have a long sleeve shirts, and this is the reason I like this, because most, if you're like me, you've got 6 sweatshirts in the back of your truck anyways, and a couple shirts from last summer, and so you've got this stuff, and the long-tailed shirts that come down over the nostrils are really good because it will keep hostile gases or shards of glass or anything that might be flying through the air. It'll keep them out of their nostrils, and they can still eat from a hay bag from it too. But there again, you got to teach your horse this stuff, and that's why I do that little class I do, and I go to people's farms and work with them and teach their horse to be rescue ready. And I've really got to give them a little certificate they can put on the wall and that their horse is rescue ready, and make a DVD and make millions of dollars. No, I'm just kidding. Use that lock to use the sleeve and lock it into place. Pad the buckles. The the nerve endings and ligaments and everything are really, really close to the skin on the horse's face. So if you can, if there's any chance that the horse is going to be leaning, especially if it's laying on the ground, make sure you use some of that padding with your blindfold to pad underneath those buckles so you don't get paralysis on those nerves. You can also put cotton blocks in the ears to buffer noises. Those little old ladies, nylon socks, the knee-high nylons and stuff, cotton balls and those, and just tie the end, and those make a really nice earplug. And they make earplugs now for mounted shooting too that are good for horses. But there again, you've got to get your horse used to earplugs before you need to use them. So, okay, leg wraps. If you're ever in an emergency situation, somebody goes to put a rope on your horse's leg and there's no padding there, I give you permission to tell them to stop and make sure that's padded. You've got to have padding. More than one horse, which in fact, I was reading about the incident. They quote unquote rescued the horse, but then the horse had to be put down because they had done so much damage to its legs with the ropes. Okay. And there was no ligaments or muscles or vessels there for those legs to ever recover. If you're going to put rope on, you've got to have padding on there. Even if it's just using padding from your ambulance or your or diapers, if you got kids or whatever, wrap duct tape, whatever you got to do before you can put a rope on, but do not let anybody put rope. And that is one of the things we really teach responders. Hoof is not a handle, and don't, unless it was an extremely dire situation, I teach responders, if this was a kid, if this was a person, what would we do? We're not going to grab that kid by the wrist and fling him out of the building. Maybe an extremely dire situation, but we are not trained that way. And so try to put that in your little brain as one of your key takeaways. A hoof is not a handle. So, all right, spend some time walking around your farm as you're doing your trail rides or stuff. Situational analysis. Where are things that might put your horse into orbit? Okay. For some reason, I had a horse here for training once, and I've got a little guest house out on the edge of my field. Had some guys come and paint it one day. She wasn't going near it anymore. I don't know about white paint. It was yellow yesterday. It's white today. It's going to kill me. I know it is. That was just a situational awareness. The situation had changed and she didn't like it. Took a long time for me to get her to walk down that trail with that white house, knowing what it was before. Do you have a pool? What is it you have that might trip your horses up? Chickens, but big draft horses, you know what scares them? Little mini horses with bells. Trotting on the edge of my field, and the grass is too high for them to see the little mini horse on the other side of the grass. They can hear the bells. My horses were thundering through my pastures one day, and I swear to God, I said they're not going to stop at the fence. They did. Thank God they all stopped at the electric fence, and then out trots this little mini, you know. And I told the neighbor anytime he wanted to drive the little field roads, go ahead. I didn't know I was going to put my horses into orbit, but what are things that I have 280-foot barn. It's got a pit at the bottom, at the end of the barn, 8-foot pit where all my manure goes. I raise pigs there. They make great compost. Those gates got to be shut. I have 2 sets of gates to get to that pig pen. And I've been to places where pits like that are open to their horses, open to their cows, and I'm there like, it's just a matter of time. Something goes over the edge. So, and just walk around and look at snow plows. Is that what you said? Snow plow. Oh yeah, snow plow. Yeah. Yeah, you just don't know. You think about it. Really take some time and say, what could my horse get into? What are some things that the only thing I'm not I have a theory. To me, the only bomb-proof horse is a dead horse. Okay. I mean, I understand military training, and that's why they made the horses deaf essentially. They put the big blinders. That's why the Roman nose was bred into the shires to limit their vision. The horse was definitely, it was bomb proof because all its sensories were taken away. There is something out there in the world that even if you think you have the most bomb proof horse in the world, there's something out there. And I've been witness to three situations where the horses were quote unquote bomb proof. One was doing wagon rides, totally bomb proof. Um, and it was a team of horses and stepped on a ground hornet's nest. Immediately became not bomb proof. Okay. The other one was we were doing wagon rides, and a guy walked around on stilts with a great big thing of balloons. And you haven't, these are 18 hand Belgians, and they had never seen anything. The guy, actually, I had to run up ahead, and we could just tell the horses they were not going to handle that if that guy kept walking. And we said, you got to go around the other building. That was not going to be a good scene. You could just tell they were getting ready to explode, and there was no amount of manpower that was going to hold them. The third one was a horse we had in for training for resale. Astounding, amazing horse, put him through all the paces, didn't mind anything. But he would be 6 towns over when the snow started sliding off the roof. Chunks of snow, how they slide off the roof. And I told the guy, I says, there's no way I can train him. I can't set up a scenario to make that happen and try to, and he did. And we ended up selling him to a really nice guy, and the guy had phenomenal look, kept him for 20 years, passed away on that farm. And he said the horse never did get used to snow sliding off the roof. Okay. He would just go into orbit. So, and I said, I don't think anything will bother this horse except snow sliding off the roof. But you just never know. So, just, along with everything, understanding your horse's senses, watching their ears, watching their eyes, learning to move and be with them as a team. What is happening in your environment, what's going on, and keep aware of that situational now awareness. I worry about this with some people. I've been told I'm more than sober. I tend to notice. I notice a lot. I'll notice a lot of things. And I have a kid here that comes to good kid, good little worker, learning, and his wife wants to grow vegetables. And I said, great. I said she can start some seedlings here. If she wants to come out in the spring, we'll start some seedlings, and she can start them in the greenhouse. He goes, oh, you got a greenhouse? I go, yeah. You drive by it every time you come up and out the driveway. And he looks out the driveway. He goes, oh yeah. And they're like, really? How could, it's a 40 by 60 greenhouse. How could you not see it? And that's the type of things that scares me. I see people with horses, um, and I teach them, you got to start noticing this stuff because your horse is noticing stuff, and they're trying to tell you, okay, is this okay? Is this okay? And they say, my horse is nervous. My horse is nervous, just because you're not noticing what they're noticing, and you're not, in that particular case, the one lady. The horse really told me. I went to her house to give her a lesson, and she's got it all harnessed up, everything tied to the side of the barn. It's great. And she comes out, and I said, just let me go talk to him. His name was Firefly, cutest little horse in the world. So I sat with Firefly for a little bit, and she went in, did something, came back out, and she goes, how's everything? I said, good. I said, Firefly wants me to tell you to go have a couple shots of whiskey and then come drive him. Because he knew his job, he knew his stuff, and he did, and I took him for a drive. He did nothing wrong. He did everything, but she was so concerned he was going to do something wrong that he was like, what is it you want me to do? Because I must not be doing something right. And I said, you got to chill out. You got to relax. He knows I said, they had this little route they went, and he wanted to go this way. And I said, turn left. I said, go down that little pasture, go up that little hill and go up that way. He was so happy to get off the real routine that she had practice, 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 because she was so afraid he was going to do something if she didn't keep him to that little pattern. So it's, and he was saying, I want to do this. I want to go do this. This is cool. So just try to figure out all that stuff with your horse. We'll have more fun. All right, I want to talk about slings for a little bit. Anybody got questions? And I'm not seeing them here. Just going, okay. Nobody's got, no one's putting in any questions yet. Okay. Oh yeah, or you can raise your hand. Yep, too. That's the other thing too. Raise your hand if you like. All right. Safe application of slings. This is how we do it if we have to. There's a couple other variations I don't have here as well. And these are all fairly common, just toe straps that you buy at Tractor Supply or a local hardware store. They're weighted up to, 17,000 pounds. If you have a 2,000-pound horse, you always want to make sure you've got a strap that's rated to till at least 8,000 pounds. You want to go 3 times the weight of whatever it is you're planning to lift or drag. Um, the one in the lower center, that's a short-term lift. That's only used if we're going to lift a horse to move it somewheres for 5 minutes. But this is what we call, the wider the strap is good, and we want to use the large muscle groups. It's just like us. We're not going to do the handle thing. It's like, just like people. We don't drag people. We don't drag people by their wrists if we're trying to rescue them. We put straps around their shoulders, straps around their groin, straps around their waist. Same thing with horses. And there's a couple variations I don't have pictures of, but these will be what you'll see if your horse ever gets into some sort of dire situation. This is what we call a Swiss seat, the one in the lower right. Well, it'd be with the Appaloosa. Um, Pros and cons to that. If you have the standard one, like up on the little pony that's just a play pony. That's one of my props. When I'm trying to teach people that are afraid of horses, we give them a little prop to put the straps on the first few times. That forward assists that, and the one that they're digging out of looks like off the bridge here, that's a standard forward assist, and those will, if we have to abandon the rescue or the horse has to go, we have to let it loose, that will fall off. If we have the Swiss seat like the one on the Appaloosa, not so good, because if we have to abandon the rescue, that strap won't fall off the horse, and it could set up a tangle incident. So, okay, if anybody here is into knots, these are the basic knots, and you can go on YouTube, you can go and just learn all your knots. You will be very, very handy on an emergency scene. I can get you the slide if anybody wants it. And there's pros and cons to all these different knots. The family figure eight of knots, they only lose about 10% of their strength, which is why we like to use them for rescue work. Lots of great other ways around the farm and doing stuff with the horses if you get into knots. So, but all right, I have one more slide. This is my last slide, except for questions. Just things to consider. It's probably only a matter of time. If anybody hasn't had an emergency of some sort, it's probably only a matter of time till you encounter one, either with your horses or with horses at a show or an event of some sort. Are you part of an organized and or trained group? Do you have one that you can call if something does happen? Does your county, region, or town have a plan? Do your fire department, local area have equipment? We had a great ice rescue a couple weeks ago. I had gone to the exact same town last year to help with a percheron mare down on the ice. So we got her up, got her in the barn, got her warmed up. And when we got her there, the lady came out and said, "Oh, she's gonna have a foal in 10 days." And they're like, "Oh, please, Lord." And as it was, she ended up. We left the slings on her for 3 days because every time she laid down, her legs had gotten so atrophied she couldn't get up. But they had a piece of equipment that they could lift her up, and after 3 days she could get up and down on her legs. And I think it was 13 days later she did have a beautiful little filly. So that all worked out good. But anyhow, they got concerned and actually bought a set of slings for themselves. So a call came in for that same town a few weeks ago for a horse down in the Crooked River, had gone down an embankment into the Crooked River. I'm 45 minutes out. I said, let me make a call, see if they're home. You can get those slings. And their son happened to be home, got the slings down to the fire department. They got the horse out. Those are the types of connections you might need to know. And there's just having tow straps at your farm can help a lot. And having webbing, your webbing for your lead lines and it goes to my house. Webbing for your lead lines and oh, it's doing that. Webbing for your lead lines and your lunge lines are not rated for doing any type of rescue work. Okay, rescue rope and webbing has a rating on it. So, and you will get hurt trying to use the other stuff. Do you have veterinarians that will come out? Can you do televet work? Sometimes I've had people just send me pictures. This is what we got. What do you suggest? And, we do it over the phone if we have to. Do you have wreckers that can lift a trailer? Can they lift a live load? Um, Natural weather disasters, wildfire, evacuation routes can be blocked by downed trees. Communications, are your cell towers and communication towers, are they going to be working? Do you have ham radio operators? They are astoundingly invaluable in an emergency. Um, and the big thing is, at least here in the United States with FEMA, so when we still have FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, they are often criticized because they don't get there to help. Well, they're they don't they can't mobilize and be there for 72 hours. So when we're teaching citizens, whether we're working with our local community risk reduction teams or anything, we really tell people you've got to be able to take care of your animals for 72 hours. You've got to have food. And I know in natural disasters where you've got landslides and some of this stuff, things are certainly more critical. Um, and people get there as best they can. But 3 days and 3 nights is what we tell people. Make sure you've got everything you need for your horses. And if you have to evacuate, make sure you can take 3 days, 3 days worth of food for you and your horses and everything you need to take care of yourself for 72 hours. Because if help is coming, it's probably not going to be there for 72 hours, unless it's neighbors and friends, and they may be in as bad a predicament as you are. So, all right. What do we want for time? Okay, I have 1 minute and 13 seconds, but probably some of that was okay, 8:10, not doing too bad. So,
You had questions in the chat too.
yep, I did just see those. So let me see. Now, do you have everyone's slide on knots? Okay, they want the slide on knots. If I send those to you, Daphne, can you get them to people that are on this chat? Will you be able to email them? Okay, and a list of emergency items to have on hand. I can give you a I can write up a little list. It's so much of that's going to depend on what your particular risk is. Do you have a pond? Do you have swift water? Do you have, mountainous area? Um, do you have mud? You go down to southern, I still have red mud stains from Georgia when I went down there to teach on my equipment. I mean, that mud is like dirt with super glue in it. That stuff is, but yes, I can put together a few things, webbing, rated webbing, and I can give Daphne we have a place here in Maine, Specialty Response Solutions. There's also Sterling Rope in Biddeford. You can get webbing and rope there. It's always good to have a good 50, 100 feet rope that used for anything else, but unless you've got to tow a horse or move a horse or something. Yeah, but Daphne and I will work on that. We'll get something to you. And I will get you the slide on. I'll probably I'll get you the slide on the knots, and I'll get you the one on or that list of stuff about is your horse rescue ready, and teaching it to lead from both sides. Those two slides too, and I'll look up the one for the in case of emergency form that you keep in your horse trailers, that we like you to keep on your horse with your horse trailers. So, all right. Any other questions?
I
Yes,
have.
ma'am.
What would you suggest? Like, I live in a place where I have a pond,
Yep.
and my horse has never been on the pond,
I
but
know. Till the day they do. Yeah.
I mean, the bigger one has fallen through, but not through ice.
Yeah.
Um,
How deep is
but
it?
it's deep, like we can't
Yeah.
touch the bottom, but it's not large. It's very, very small.
Yeah.
What
Could they drown in it, or are they just going to get trapped in the mud?
they're gonna drown in it.
They're
Well,
gonna
if they
drown.
can't sleep, if they can't
I
swim.
would. Yeah, I'd fence it off. I really would.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. I mean,
Well,
if I,
they sleep in the barn, so
I do too. Yeah. My little apartment's in my barn. I know. And I have my horse's pasture, and then I have perimeter fencing, and then I have gates on all my, so they've got to go through 3 sets if they are going to escape. Um, and yeah, and I still get paranoid that, a moose is going to come through or something's going to come through or something's going to happen. Yeah, a pond like that, I would just have to say, is it their water supply? Is it their drinking water supply source? Yeah,
No.
I would, if you can, I'd really, really electric fence it off. Yeah.
Yeah. I
You've
mean,
been lucky.
I
How many
do.
years they never go there? You've been lucky.
I've been just 2 years here, but
Yeah.
they're barn sour, like
Oh,
very
okay. Yeah.
heavily. So they usually, if like they've escaped before because of the snowplows,
Yeah.
and they just go to the barn directly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
no.
Well, that's good though then too. So, and I actually I have a little loft there with a couple bales of second crop hay in there. So if they do get loose, I'm thinking, now they're going to go eat the second crop. That's where I'm going to find them, and little stuff like that. I try to,
That's the
yeah.
pattern of my chores in the morning. That's like I prepare
Thank
my
you,
chores for the
David.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. If you got
helps.
to sign out, people sign out. I understand. I'll tell you personally, but yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
have to, I would highly, I always tell people to fence off because even if they just get stuck up to their knees. There was one, it was horribly unfortunate. I got a call. This was when I had first started doing it, and it was down in the Edgecombe area on the other side of Damascus or someplace. Lady had done her night checks, and they had a pond that the horses drank their water from. She checked them all, it was all nice. She went out to check in the morning. One horse was missing, and it had gone down to get a drink of water, and it must have slipped. And it during the night, the top of the pond had frozen a little bit, and the horse's leg went under the shelf of ice, and he couldn't move his shoulders enough to get that leg up, so he was trapped. And his when rescuers got there, when the veterinarian got there, his body temperature was like 88, and they couldn't bring him back. And that was
Wow.
before they did do a class after that, and that's usually, unfortunately, that's what happens when when someone loses a horse. They do, because that's always one thing I say: the minute, if you're waiting for the vet or waiting for rescuers, you got a horse down in the cold or down in the mud, you want to get in blankets, you want to be getting warm. If you've got a battery pack, you know I carry a blow dryer with me. I've got my solar charged battery packs, so I can get 3 hours of electricity out in the woods if I need it to keep a horse warm. Blankets, hot water bottles, 60 cc, one of the best things, 60 cc syringe with, a quarter cup of maple syrup in it and warm water. Put that in the horses, put that under their tongue. That gives them a great boost of energy if you're waiting. Um,
Hmm,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's keeping them warm when they get cold, and cooling them down when they get hot is two of the hardest things. And I tell people, I said, if that was a little kid laying in the ice and you were waiting for responders, you wouldn't let them sit there and be cold. So, but anyway, so is it just you and me, or we still got people on here?
We still have people, and like it's still recorded, and
Okay.
so I had a few. I mean, if unless other people had questions, I had
Yeah, type them
suggestions.
in if you do, or raise your hand.
So, well, I don't know. I can't see the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
Let me
anything
just,
in the chat.
yeah.
Just
Um, but I still like I can go and have so many questions because I do prepare for all these
you do.
chats, and I like browse like during the whole week. I'm like, oh yeah, I could ask that. But I was wondering like if did you have a good store that ended well, but like was or
Well,
like maybe it
The Percheron mare having her baby, that was
was
good.
one of the story.
I've had a lot of horses down on ice that I've gotten up and gotten them. Their legs might be a little atrophied because horses, especially, I don't know why it is. 90% of my calls have been draft horses. Um, you just get there, just start moving their legs so you can build that strength back. And the other thing that's really hard is a lot of these horses are old, and they go down, and once they go down, they're going to start going down. And I put out my little thing every fall on my Facebook page and say, if you've got an old horse, oh, Kathy's here. I told about oh, did you hear me tell Firefly you got to take your whiskey? Oh, how's he doing?
He's doing great. Thank you so
Ah,
much. Oh, that was the best story of all.
oh, well, it was it because
I know.
he
You were
was
the
just
guest.
so he was such a trooper that day, and he was going, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do it. Come on, tell mom to let me go. How, oh, that's so
Yes.
great. I love him. That was
That
my
day
class,
stays
one of my
stays
students out
with me
in
to this day.
Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're looking
No,
for you to come
he's
back. So just let us know.
yeah, I gotta go. I'm gonna be 4 hours from you in May. I'm going out to Eagle Lake, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Are you headed? Are you going to come this way and see us?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. We
It's
get
gonna
it. We
depend
get
on
it.
flights. I mean, that's one of those that's a tough place to fly into, that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty
we'll
rural.
see. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. But great that you're here. Fine,
Oh,
fantastic.
no, I wouldn't miss you for the world. So thank you.
Are you gonna tune in next Tuesday?
Oh, what's
I'm
next
doing the one
Tuesday?
for the Michigan Horse Trail Association.
Oh, I will
Next
be. I did.
next
I'll make
Tuesday
sure I've
evening.
got
Yeah,
it on
cool.
on my
Good.
schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So what you had?
And was there a donation? Oh, was
For
there an
this one?
opportunity to make a donation to your group? Yes.
Oh, for Draft Animal Power. Yeah, I can send you the link for our website and there's all the donations you
Okay. That would be
happy.
wonderful. And thank you for hosting this.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's too funny. So okay. So what was your question? I'm sorry. You were.
Well, you did answer it, but if there was any other stories like
Oh well, that yeah. Fine.
that
That wasn't
you
a
used your
rescue with
tricks.
Firefly. Um. Yeah. A lot of the Oh, and I try to put on my page every fall. If you've got an old horse, put him down on a good day, and a week too early is better than a day too late. And I mean, I've had heartbreak horses that, I mean, were down and we couldn't get them out of their situation. We're just waiting for waiting 2 or 3 hours for a vet to come put them down. And you're giving them hay, you're feeding them, and you're just, you're giving them the last hour of happiness and give them as much comfort and stuff as you can. But it's not, it's hard on the owners. It's hard on me. And I just, I've had to put my own old horses down, and you always just say, oh, just one more day, but it's tough. It's hard, but I do try to get people with these old horses because it's not fun. And once they start going down, they're going to go down a few more days. And the other thing, older horses I'm finding too, if they do get out, they will wander, and they are the ones, people will say, oh, he never goes out to that part of the pasture. Never seen him. He's lived here 20 years, never gone to that part of the pasture. Well, he was probably going out there to die. I mean,
Mhm.
the old animals know to walk away and go away. Um, and so that's never easy either. And so
I I do
anyhow,
I do work with I work in the woods with a 23-year-old
yeah,
gelded
wow,
Belgian, and the first year I had him, he used to fall in the trailer, trip in the trailer every day.
wow,
I'd go out in the woods, and
yeah,
it took me a lot. And he has really bad hip issues,
yeah,
so it was really really tough for me at first, and I'm always alone, working alone, so it's like I
yeah,
always have to find solutions. And I've been told by his past owners, and I've seen him at work fall, and now I'm super super careful about not making him fall while I work.
yeah,
But if it does happen, what do you think would be the best tool? Because I have like a hand winch, and he does get up. Like as soon as he feel pressure, he will get up. I've seen him in the past. I've had him for 3 years, and he hasn't done that yet. But
yeah.
what would you
Well,
suggest? Like,
it's going to depend on how he goes down. Is he on ice? And, can he I mean, the big thing is that they've got to get that leg underneath them, and they've got to be able to move their shoulders. If he goes down against a tree or something, you might consider some sort of come along and straps,
mm,
to be able to carry that as part of your rescue pack. You could, I mean, there is what we do in rescue. It's called a mechanical advantage, where you've got pulleys and ropes, and you could
yeah.
have straps on them and then use the pulleys and ropes, and you could get some technical training, rope rescue training on that. And you might be able to, but I just consider I'd consider retiring him and using him in the summers where he doesn't have the, and do you have him on a like Cosequin or some sort of joint supplement or something to
Um,
help his
yeah,
nutrition?
I have a nutrition plan for him, but
Yeah,
he's he's doing great. Like I have
yeah,
no he's not even losing weight or anything.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's
Salt is a big thing too. He's got free choice salt because
yeah.
salt is, I tell you, I've seen horses turn around with salt because they're very weak without salt. And yeah,
And yeah, and it's also his last winter. I just I don't want to scare people off, but it's his last
yeah.
winter too, and I got another gelding taking his place, but
Yeah, I mean, I would just like try to keep his work as safe and gentle and low risk as possible. And,
which
you
is
know,
hard in the wood, but
right, right. Yeah. And I mean, and he can, I mean, there was a reason every logging camp in Maine had a butcher shop because, the horses would break legs and fall on the ice and twist. And yeah, I mean, it's horribly dangerous work. Yeah.
but I mean, we haven't had problems and he's doing
Yeah.
fine. It's
Well, I would
just
definitely be trying to carry
emergency.
a sling, tow rope that you could make into a sling for that, at least one leg.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
other thing too, if you are on ice, you do up some like 2 foot by 2 foot pieces of tar paper. Because lots of times you can get tar paper, if they just can't get a grip, can't get their foot, to get grip on the ice, you can put a piece of tar paper under their hoof, and that will give them enough grip to be able to stand up. So, just little tricks that you might just keep me on speed dial. Send me
I
a
now I will for
yeah,
sure.
I got this. What do I do? You won't be the first one. I know
And
one of my friends, I came because I don't take my phone out in the barn. I was out doing chores. I came in, one of my fire chiefs that had called and I called him right back and he's there. Hey, how you doing today? Good. What's up? Because I'm expecting it to be, oh, they got a horse down or something. That's about the only time some of my chiefs call me. So
yeah, um, I wish
this picture
I
here
wish.
too, and this last year, do you know that about the using just a horse halter as a little sling for a little horse or a dog?
Oh no, yeah, I have seen it before, but I
Yeah.
don't know how to use it.
Yeah. All it is you just put the halter on upside down on the horse.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Works for
I
big
mean,
dogs too. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even I think my dogs and my horses wouldn't fit in there.
Yeah. No, it's just for baby horses, sheep, dogs, llamas. Yeah.
That's oh
But
yeah,
that's just
okay.
gonna kind of one, people. I had a guy today, he teaches phenomenal. In fact, he was one of the instructors at that class where the Canadians came down. And I was telling him, I said, can you add a horse component to one of these classes? So I was talking to him and he goes, well, we don't have any equipment. I go, you have all the equipment you need. I said, what you don't have is the animal component, and I said, we can teach you that. So I'm going to meet with him in a couple of weeks and hopefully we'll be able to, get
Add
that in
those.
there. So cool.
And so I part of my list of questions.
Yep.
Um, so as people working in the woods, far away from I'm far from my trailer always, but
Yep.
I move with a sleigh and we work it all day and I have my sleigh, so I can bring as much
Yep.
equipment as needed.
Yep.
But I wonder, because I have my safety kit, but I don't have a safety kit for my horse,
Yeah,
and I
well,
wonder
there's
with that.
things called Quick Clot, Quik, Quick Clot. I would definitely have some of those because if you do, slip and he gets gouged with a stick in his groin and you hit an artery or something, you can pack those right in there. It'll stop the bleeding. I mean, they were designed for combat. I would definitely have Quick Clots. They're good for you too. Do you work with chainsaws?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going to be good. Good that way. Um, I would have just a little, do a jar of molasses because I assume you have water on scene. So if they did go down and you had to give them some quick energy, just keep some molasses on hand. Um, I'd have to think of that again too for a rescue kit. There's also one. I can give you all the things as far as like, what to have for an emergency halter and all that sort of stuff. But that's probably stuff you already carry, an extra one of that stuff. So you got to think about what do you think it might go wrong? And, most of the things I'm thinking are gonna go wrong is bleeding, because if it's a broken bone, there's not
Yeah.
gonna be anything you can do.
No.
Broken piece of equipment, it's kind of out of the realm. But, so the only thing, I'm trying to think, the only emergency would be if it did go down on ice, and I gave you a couple situations, the only thing I can think would be bleeding.
Yeah. And when I was talking about my horse falling, he falls like not even on ice. I've seen him
Yeah.
stuck not on ice.
How
And not like
often? I mean, is it,
it's been a while. I mean, since I've had him, he hasn't done it.
oh,
Um
okay. I mean,
it's
and it might
he
have
used to
just
do
been
it.
something new. He was doing it before you got him.
Yeah, pretty often. I mean, once or twice a year or
Yeah.
even 3 times a
Yeah,
year.
and that might have been a
He was
nutritional
working
thing in
more.
the salt. Yeah. I mean, the salt, if he's being, if he's, it could be just he had a mineral or just some mineral imbalance. Magnesium, a lack of magnesium will make a horse weak. So,
Hmm.
but I've got a 23-year-old too, and she doesn't, she shows no signs of slowing down. Sometimes a little bit because they've got to step up a foot to get in their stall and a step down, and I'll see her if she's had to be in at night, because we've had some bitterly cold. Well, you guys have too, bitterly cold weather. And so I've made them stay in at night. But they got 12 by 14 stalls, so it's not like but I'll see her. She'll just be a little stiff coming out in the morning a little bit for about maybe 2 steps. And then she goes, all right, there's grain out there. I better go. But yeah. But yeah, those old ones are, you'll know though when they start to go, it'll
I'm
just be one, it'll be
I'm not
overnight. It'll be
not
overnight.
ready.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Not ready, but
but you got
I
one up and coming. That's good.
yeah, he's not ready though. He too young.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I like to single log in. I could single log all day.
oh,
That was always my favorite thing to do.
you know,
Those
I'm so
single-
happy it's my job.
Yeah, you are.
Um,
All right. Another
it's
question.
8:30.
Anything else? Yeah.
It
That
is
was
8.
too funny. I can't believe that Kathy was on. I told that story.
I think she's still on.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
Um,
great. Cool.
well, I'm gonna thank you so like
All
this
right.
is
Hey,
great.
let
I
me
mean,
know if
this
you wanna. Hopefully
awesome.
we can catch up in October. Yeah. She's still chuckling.
Yes, I will. We will keep you up to date. Either
Okay.
Erica or I. But
You made a list of the stuff I got to get you, right? Or did you want me to?
wait, I'm gonna write it down. It was
Okay, the
not-
rope,
yeah,
the rope and knots list.
and then
Um,
the
the
two,
2 slides, which I know about,
right? Yes.
and then there's one more thing. Oh, the note to first responders,
Oh yeah.
and then the list of um
Emergency kit.
list of emergency items. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be great.
which is,
And
I can give you the basics, but the rest is just going to be risk dependent.
mhm,
You know.
yeah.
So the big things is, hopefully they'll talk about who am I going to call? Does my fire department have some training? Are there other horse people around that, or can we get the training? And I mean, that's the big thing. Just if you are in a bad situation, who are you going to call for help? And if you call
Yeah.
911, then if you call 911, then are they gonna come? Are they gonna say no? And then you gotta call your neighbors, and can you get a tractor? Can you get, and is that tractor gonna, it's not, is it a lawnmower on steroids? Is it a real tractor? I mean, that's the other thing too. I get the classes sometimes and they come out with this little, it's like, we can rescue a sheep, but we're not gonna rescue a horse, okay? So that's the stuff too. You need some real equipment if you've got to lift a horse or get a horse out of the mud, something like that too.
Yeah.
Cool. Good deal.
Well, okay, I have
All
the
right.
list and I'll send it to you.
All right.
But you're so inspiring. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
good. Thank you.
It's so great. It really changes my perspective on things.
I don't want to, I remember sometimes I teach these classes. I don't think I want a horse anymore. It's like, yeah. You
Well,
see
that's too
anything?
bad
Yeah.
for me.
Oh, I know. It is. It's what is that saying? It's moments of calm with, you know, moments of sheer fright or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember the thing, you know, it's
I can't help you with
90% of the time it's all great, but it's, you know, it's those moments when your adrenaline goes 0 to 60 and, you know, cool. Okie
Yeah.
dokie, girl.
Well, have a
I
great
will be in
night,
touch.
and I'll send you the YouTube link.
Okay, sounds
Have-
great. And I'll hope. Sometimes I don't like my voice. You know, hopefully I sound okay.
You can listen to it like that.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thank you. All
Have a great night. Thank you again.
right, take care.
Bye.